Hi, and welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Johnny DC.
And I'm his twin brother, Marvelous Joe.
And this will be a Duel episode, one we've been holding on to for a long time, ever since we thought the Gambit movie was going to be coming out. It's going to be Gambit versus Captain Boomerang.
Yeah, the Gambit movie initially was slated for 2016, so we've been wanting to do this matchup for years, people.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because Gambit is one of the most popular X-Men characters out there. He's going up against Captain Boomerang, who in his own right has gotten pretty popular over the past few years due to his inclusion in the Suicide Squad films, both animated and live action.
And this episode is in part a lead up to our team match between the Suicide Squad and the Defenders Street Team.
Yeah, look forward to that, and we will be breaking down the histories and abilities of both Captain Boomerang and Gambit later on this episode before we run mathematical simulations that determines who would actually win between the characters.
Before that, we're going to break down the comic book movie news items from the past week, including the news that Danny Elfman will score the Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness film, directed by Sam Raimi, and also the news that Sasha Calle has been cast as Supergirl in the Flash movie.
As always, we list our segment times in our episode description, so feel free to check out the show notes if you want to skip ahead to a particular topic.
Just a quick reminder to please subscribe to our show if you haven't already, and if you have, please help us grow our podcast audience by leaving a quick rating or review on whatever platform you're listening to us on, or by sharing us with your fellow DC and Marvel fans.
Yeah, most podcast platforms choose to feature podcasts based on their ability to get that type of listener interaction, including ratings, reviews, subscriptions, things like that. So it'll be a big help for us if you guys could please do that. Thank you to everyone who has rated us within the past few weeks. And with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize.
A No Prize is an award Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award we post on social media that Jonathan personally draws for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week.
Last week's question tied into the sweet Zack Snyder's Justice League trailer that was released on Valentine's Day. And our question was, what was your favorite moment of the recent trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League? We got a lot of haters out there, but we do have a few honorable mentions that we want to give out before announcing this week's No Prize winner.
Our first honorable mention goes to Nate, who said,
"Hey, it's Nate here, and normally I don't watch trailers, I kind of boycott them, but because I've already seen Justice League, I decided to go ahead and watch this one. My favorite part of the trailer was probably seeing Superman die again."
And I'm going to agree. Like, that scene is powerful. Henry Cavill just totally nailed, I guess, the majesty of Superman's death and the awe-inspiring nature of it. It's played in slow motion. It was just interesting to see that revisited in this new way that added this new element of, like, his death rattle, as it were.
I don't think that's what he meant.
Shut up. Yes, it was. Moving on. Our next honorable mention goes to Jeff Miles Jr., who said,
"Hey, John and Joe, it's Jeff Miles Jr. I think the best part of the Snyder Cut trailer was easily any scene with Darkseid. I think the stakes are higher, his presence, no more of this petty Steppenwolf getting beat by freeze breath crap.
Darkseid did look pretty cool in that trailer.
He looked so cool. I love that they gave him the glowing eyes. I feel like so many times in superhero movies, filmmakers are afraid to go with like the fully lensed eye or like the glowing eye. They didn't shy away from that with Darkseid, which is awesome. He just looked so pissed off. It was great. I can't wait to see him in this film.
Yeah, hopefully he uses the Omega Beams.
Oh, he will.
Do you think Steppenwolf will still get beaten by freeze breath in this new movie?
I don't know. I think it's more of a heat vision thing. That scene in the trailer, honestly, of Superman's face in the black suit, and he's just like super angry and he's just blasting his heat vision, that was one of my favorite scenes. No one mentioned that, but I thought that was awesome.
Our next honorable mention goes to Peter Griffin, who said,
Hi, is this thing on? Hi there, this is Peter Griffin. So my favorite part of the trailer from Justice League was the reveal of the Joker. I love that big goofy smile and the way he said, Batman.
That was a spot on Peter Griffin impression. That was great. But and I have to agree with him too. Jared Leto's Joker looks like he is going to be so much better than he was in Suicide Squad. I'm hesitant to say that he's going to be better than Joaquin Phoenix or Heath Ledger, but it's definitely a step up from his like tattooed gangster approach.
Yeah, he definitely looks like he's going to graduate from being just a SoundCloud rapper in this.
Exactly. He almost looks like some kind of like, I don't know, like zombie Joker or something like that. I'm always surprised that they find new looks for the Joker and they still somehow work. It's great.
Before we declare the no prize winner, we want to give a quick shout out to everybody who took the time to go on our website and record their own no prize answer. Big thanks to Matt Estes, John Speas, and Shane Habizin.
Yeah, thanks, guys. But the winner of this week's no prize is Jacob Bell, who said,
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Jacob Bell. I'd have to say that my favorite moment is the Batman and Joker interaction. Even though Batman doesn't say anything, I think his face just completely shows like 20 years of how their relationship has been, and we haven't seen it on screen in a movie since 2008. So, yeah.
And I agree, like everyone is going on about how great Jared Leto is as the Joker, but how about Ben Affleck returning as Batman? That is awesome. And seeing him just like slowly turn and realize that the Joker is there.
I'm surprised he didn't beat his ass, especially now that we know he uses guns in the Nightmare world, you know?
Right? I hope they go all in on this interaction. Like if they're seeing each other for the first time in a long time, I really hope Batman just like gives it to him for everything the Joker has put him through, everything that Zack Snyder has established in this universe with him killing Robin and just a whole bunch of people. It would be so amazing if they did that.
Well, I assume that the reason that they're even meeting up with the Joker in the first place is because he's some integral part of their plan. So he probably won't be beating the shit out of the Joker, even though he probably wants to.
Even if he doesn't, I just want to see them be like real dicks to each other, I guess, because of their antagonistic relationship. If they have to partner for a time, so be it. If it's for the greater good against Darkseid. But yeah, I think there's definitely going to be some conflict there, and that's going to be exciting to see.
Congrats again to Jacob Bell for winning this week's No Prize. If you, the listener, want a shot at winning your own No Prize, stay tuned to later on this episode when we'll be asking another question of the week. And now that that's done,
on to the news.
All right, this past week we learned from a website called Inverse that Danny Elfman, the musical composer, will be creating the score for the upcoming Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness movie, which will be directed by Sam Raimi. Now, the two have collaborated before on the first two Spider-Man films, and I really love Danny Elfman's work. He does a great job of pairing with dark neo-Gothic directors like Tim Burton, like Sam Raimi. And I think that kind of vibe is going to suit Doctor Strange really well.
Oh, absolutely. Danny Elfman is just, one of the masters of his craft. He's scored so many superhero films, and I've loved all of them. Honestly, even like the Justice League score that he came up with. I don't think it's going to be as good as Hans Zimmer's and Junkie XL's, but it was still good. His best, of course, is Batman, but I think his Spider-Man comes in a close second.
Yeah, he also did the score for Avengers Age of Ultron, which I thought was pretty good.
And Ang Lee's The Hulk. And I loved that score.
Yeah, that was a great one. He's just a real prolific composer, working for not just superhero films, but for a ton of iconic stuff. Like, the Simpsons score, he did that. And most, if not all, of Tim Burton's works. Good Will Hunting. He's done a lot of memorable stuff. That being said, I would count the score for the first Doctor Strange movie among my favorite superhero scores of all time. I really love the psychedelic, new age kind of feel that composer Michael Giacchino brought to that score, and it'll be hard to see it go.
Yeah, I definitely had mixed reactions when I saw this news. I don't want them to erase everything that Scott Derrickson did with the first Doctor Strange film because it wasn't a bad film. There was a lot that he got right, including, choosing the direction of that score. My biggest concern is that Danny Elfman is just going to rewrite the whole thing and not use any elements of the existing Doctor Strange theme, just, coming at it from an entirely new approach.
Well, the rumor is that the sequel, this Multiverse of Madness movie, will be much darker in tone compared to the first movie. So it may have a different vibe in general that the new director and the new score will capture. But yeah, there's just so much to love about the Doctor Strange film, about the characterization of Doctor Strange by Benedict Cumberbatch, and you hope that they retain as much of what made the franchise successful as possible. That being said, Sam Raimi is a great director. I'm sure I'll enjoy it no matter what his vision is. But since we're on the topic of superhero musical scores, that brings us to our question of the week. What Marvel or DC film has had your favorite musical score and why?
Record your answer at dynamicduel.com by clicking on the red microphone button in the bottom right-hand corner, and that'll prompt you to leave us a voicemail. Your message can be up to 20 seconds, and don't forget to leave your name in case we include you on the podcast. We'll pick our favorite answer and draw that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to social media. Be sure to answer before February 27th. But moving on to DC news, Deadline earlier this week, I think, had the exclusive that actress Sasha Calle of The Young and the Restless will be making her film debut as Supergirl in the upcoming Flash film starring Ezra Miller and directed by Andy Muschietti. And that was a surprise. Like, I did not think Supergirl was going to be in the Flashpoint movie.
Now, do we think this is going to be the primary DCEU universe Supergirl, or will it be a Supergirl from an alternate universe? Since we know that the Flash will be visiting multiple realities within this film.
We don't know for certain. The current rumors are that she will be from another universe. She's part of the multiverse. And that also Flashpoint will be both parts Flashpoint from the comics and Crisis on Infinite Earths. What's interesting, though, is that we know what happened to Supergirl on Crisis on Infinite Earths. She died. And Barry Allen, the Flash, died as well. So it'll be interesting to see what the stakes of this film will be. Like, is Anti-Monitor going to be the main villain?
Oh, that's a good question. I think regardless of what happens, if they are doing Crisis on Infinite Earths, that means that they're going to condense the multiverse basically into one reality. Although DC definitely wouldn't do that because it seems like they're sticking with their multiversal approach.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the threat, that everything will be condensed into one reality, but then, Barry Allen or Supergirl ends up saving the multiverse.
So does that mean that we won't see this version of Supergirl interact with this version of the Flash in the future because her reality is retained and she'll continue to exist there in subsequent films?
Who knows? I think there's definitely going to be some cross-merging because we know that Michael Keaton's Batman is coming over into the main DCEU. Or at least, I shouldn't say we know that. Again, that's the rumor. But who knows, again, if Supergirl even survives this film. It would be cool to see her survive it. It would be cool to see her, like, in the next Man of Steel movie. I think she could definitely pass as Henry Cavill's cousin.
Yeah. Do you think they'll dye her hair blonde?
That is actually my biggest question. Because she has really dark hair. And I kind of have trouble seeing her as a blonde.
On one hand, keeping her a brunette makes her look more similar to Superman, makes him look more related. On the other hand, Supergirl is so iconically blonde that it's hard to see her as Supergirl without that hair color. I know it's like a petty difference,
right?
But it is definitely part of the visualization for sure. And I noticed that the DCEU doesn't actually have any blondes. Like,
no, it doesn't.
Barry Allen is blonde in the comics, but not in the movie. Aquaman is blonde in the comics, but not in the movie, although I love Jason Momoa's casting.
Yeah, they definitely don't adhere to hair color in the DCEU. I mean, even with like characters like Lois Lane, she's brunette in the comics, not a redhead like Amy Adams, Plus, if they kept Sasha Calle's natural hair color, it might differentiate her from Melissa Benoist, the Supergirl actress from the Supergirl television show.
Is that how you pronounce her last name? Benoist?
Benoit? I have no idea.
Gross. Moist.
Benoist! But yeah, I imagine that Warner Brothers wants to separate themselves from that iteration of the character as much as possible. Because I already see a lot of hate online about why Melissa was not cast in this role.
I guess it would have been a good way to send off the character considering that the Supergirl CW television series is coming to an end.
But yeah, that being said, it's not like, Barry Allen is Grant Gustinson in this movie. It's Ezra Miller. It's a different iteration of that character.
I mean, that's not a good argument, though, because he's visiting alternate realities, and they should have done Melissa Benoist.
Apparently, Sasha Calle was like 1 out of 400 that auditioned for this role. And Andy Muschietti and Walter Hamada went through every single audition to choose her. They announced Calle's casting via social media through a video chat between Andy Muschietti and her, where he revealed to her that she got the role. And just seeing her so excited, it was great. She apparently has really good chemistry with Ezra Miller. I wonder if she's going to be like a love interest of sorts. I don't know. But if Andy Muschietti and Walter Hamada are this excited about her casting, I'm excited about her casting.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it turns out. Now, they haven't started filming this yet.
No, it's definitely still in pre-production. I'm actually not sure when they start filming. I imagine this year.
So we'll probably either get a trailer at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. God, everything just seems so far away.
Well, I mean, we'll probably get like photos of Ezra Miller and maybe Supergirl like in their new costumes before the end of the year, I imagine. They've been releasing like test costume footage pretty early with like Joaquin Phoenix and Robert Pattinson as Batman. So hopefully we get something soon.
Yep. I think that does it for all the news for this particular episode. So let's go ahead and get into our main event, where we find out who would win in a fight between the Suicide Squad member, Captain Boomerang, and the X-Men member, Gambit.
Okay, Captain Boomerang versus Gambit. One of them, of course, is a pretty famous X-Men character, and the other is a up-and-coming famous Flash villain.
Now, why did we pit these two characters against each other? Well, for several reasons. One, they both throw explosive shit accurately. Two, they're both expert thieves. Three, they both have dope jackets. At least the new version of Captain Boomerang. Like the traditional classic version of Captain Boomerang wore like a blouse or something like that. But
And a scarf.
yeah, it was kind of weird. I'm glad they updated the character.
Yeah, now he has like a jacket just like full of boomerangs and stuff like that. Before he just had a satchel, That seems like it's pretty easy to steal.
But I also like the attitudes of both these characters. Like Gambit's kind of like the cool, suave ladies' man of the X-Men group, whereas, Captain Boomerang wants to be.
That's pretty much spot on, yeah.
But Captain Boomerang has a good sense of humor, I think.
Yeah, his backstory is kind of hilarious.
Who has the better accent, though? Gambit with his Cajun accent or Captain Boomerang with his Australian accent?
I'm going to say Australian because any accent I attempt always ends up being Australian.
Yeah, even when you try a Cajun one.
Yeah. Let the good times roll. I don't know what that was. I don't think that was either. I don't know. That was awful. Moving on. If you've never listened to one of our Duel episodes before, the way we determine a winner between these two characters is by running 1,000 Monte Carlo simulations using their statistics. Now, Monte Carlo simulation is a probabilistic model used to determine outcomes through random sampling.
And in our case, the model randomizes statistics along a normal distribution, which is a bell curve, as a way to simulate the many variables that can occur during battle. The stat parameters we use are based on the official Marvel Power Grid, and we use that criteria to extrapolate the DC character stats. We've included some additional stat categories of our own, such as range, damage potential, and perception, in order to create a more complete and robust simulation.
Now, running these 1,000 simulations gives us a percentage of wins for each character, and we declare the one with the higher percentage to be the ultimate victor, given that they're more likely to win any given battle. No character ever wins 100% of the time. Comics have always shown that there's a way for Batman to defeat Superman, so we feel our method falls in line with the precedents that have been established in the comic book stories.
And we use this method because it was the least subjective, most unbiased way to determine who would win. Of course, Jonathan and I are both heavily biased toward our respective allegiances, and instead of debating these matches forever, we just let the math decide for us. So there's no fan votes here, and no relying on just feats.
Before we run the simulations, though, we like to break down each character's histories and abilities before improvising a scenario on how we imagine one of the 1,000 simulations we run would play out beat for beat.
And I think it's my turn to go first with my character's history, so let's go ahead and learn all about the Ragin' Cajun Gambit. Now, Remy LeBeau was born in New Orleans, Louisiana. His parents abandoned him as a baby for having mutated red eyes, which they considered a demonic trait. Remy grew up on the streets, raised by a local gang who taught him how to survive through stealing. At age 10, he attempted to pickpocket a man named Jean-Luc LeBeau, who turned out to be the leader of a secret criminal organization known as the Thieves Guild. Jean-Luc was so impressed by the boy's skill that he took him in and adopted him into his family. He furthered Remy's training to turn him into a master thief and expert fighter. It was around this time Remy first met and fell in love with a girl named Belladonna Boudreaux, who is tragically the granddaughter of the Assassin's Guild leader, the Assassin's Guild being the chief rival of the Thieves Guild. These two crime families had a long history of feuding with each other in their service to a powerful immortal mutant, an external, named Kandra.
An external? What's that?
An external is an ancient race of mutants. They were like the first mutants. Apocalypse is one. They're like the Eternals version of mutants, basically. They're called externals.
Huh.
Anyway, after years of training, Jean-Luc began Remy's initiation into the Thieves Guild and assigned him his first heist. Unfortunately, this mission went completely awry, and Remy was caught and imprisoned by a mutant slave trader. He ended up breaking out of his cell using his newly manifested mutant ability to charge objects with kinetic energy, and during his escape, he threw an explosively charged playing card at his captor, using his signature attack for the first time and making it back home to the guild. In an attempt to reconcile the age-old feud between the Thieves and Assassins guilds, Jean-Luc betrothed Remy to Belladonna. The two were married in a pact to ensure peace between the families, and though the new couple was happy, it was a union that Belladonna's brother Julian could not accept. After the ceremony, he challenged Remy to a duel, and Remy ended up killing his new brother-in-law in self-defense. For this, Remy was exiled from New Orleans and the guild in order to maintain peace, and his romantic relationship with his childhood sweetheart Belladonna had come to an end.
Where they got divorced?
Yeah, or annulled. I actually, one of those two. I'm pretty sure you can annul a marriage if, the groom kills the bride's brother.
Yeah, that seems valid.
Remy traveled the globe plying his skills as a master thief for hire. He made a few friends and enemies in his heists along the way, falling into the debt of evil mutate and X-Men villain Mr. Sinister in the process, and was obligated to do some jobs for him. Sinister had Remy lead a group called the Mutant Marauders, consisting of brutal mutants such as Sabretooth, Blockbuster, Riptide, and Scalp Hunter, into the sewer tunnels of New York City, where a subterranean group of mutants nicknamed Morlocks lived. Remy wasn't aware, though, that the team had been given secret orders to massacre the Morlocks for their supposed genetic inferiority. Remy tried to stop the team, but was nearly killed in the process, managing to save only one Morlock, the young mutant later known as Marrow. Again traveling across the world, this time seeking to redeem himself, Remy encountered the X-Men member Storm. After he helped her escape the evil psychic mutant known as the Shadow King, she brought him back with her to Westchester, New York, and introduced him to the X-Men team, which he joined. You can learn more about the X-Men in our Titans vs. X-Men episode. Remy and fellow X-Men member Rogue had a near instantaneous attraction to each other, despite the fact that Rogue could not be kissed nor even touched. Regardless, the pair began dating anyway, and he battled alongside the team in their fights against the Brotherhood of Mutants led by Magneto. His past came back to haunt him the first time when he was attacked by his former brother-in-law Julian, who was revealed to have survived their duel, and he told Remy that Belladonna was dying back in New Orleans. Rogue accompanied Remy back to Louisiana to lend support and look after Belladonna, while Remy and Julian traveled to Paris to steal an elixir from the external Kandra that could cure Belladonna. Remy seduced Kandra to obtain the elixir, and he traveled back to New Orleans to save his ex-wife, and then reunite with Rogue and the X-Men. However, his relationship with Rogue was strained after she accidentally absorbed the memories of Belladonna, learning about her and Remy's amorous history. The two ended up making up and kissing in a later adventure when they thought the world was about to end, but this put Remy in a coma for 3 weeks, and gave Rogue a hint about his previous association with Mr. Sinister. He came clean with her about his role in the Morlock massacre, and was summarily rejected by both Rogue and the X-Men. He then went on his own adventures in the Savage Land and around the world, before encountering the X-Men again. They forgave him, and he joined Storm's new team, the Extreme X-Men, who sought to obtain the diaries of a mutant prophet named Destiny. The diaries were attempted to be used by Mr. Sinister to map out the future of mutant kind after the Scarlet Witch used her powers to erase a vast majority of the world's mutant powers. Fortunately, Remy burned the diaries prior, preventing Sinister from using the predictive text for nefarious means. Remy later helped save Rogue alongside Professor X from the sentient danger room, after which Rogue was able to fully control her powers. She and Remy were finally able to touch safely, and the two moved to San Francisco to regroup with the X-Men, and later back to Westchester to serve as teachers and mentors at the Jean Grey School of Higher Learning. After attending Shadowcat and Colossus's wedding ceremony, in which Kitty left Colossus at the altar, Remy took advantage of all their friends being present and finally proposed to Rogue. They were immediately wed, and after their honeymoon spent aboard a space station, they were pulled into an adventure with the Shi'ar aliens. They returned to Earth to find that the island Krakoa had become the new home for mutants, and Remy and Rogue joined the newly reformed Excalibur team. Powers-wise, Gambit has the mutant ability to convert the potential energy in inorganic objects into kinetic energy. He can cause this energy to be released destructively, exploding the object, or non-destructively, channeling the energy through the object as a concussive force. He primarily uses this ability on his signature playing cards, primarily because they're easy to store, throw, and the time it takes to charge them is quick. He can charge any object he touches, though the larger an object is, the more potential energy it contains and the longer it takes to charge. This conversion ability also allows him to tap into his body's own potential energy reserves and accelerate them so he can temporarily enhance his speed, strength, agility, stamina, and healing speed to just above peak human levels. He's a master marksman with exceptional throwing aim. He's trained in the martial arts of Savat and Bojutsu, which is the art of the bow staff, one of which he carries. It's metal and telescoping. He keeps it in his jacket.
I surprisingly knew more about Gambit's backstory than I thought I did.
Yeah.
I guess the character hasn't been around that long.
No, he was introduced in 1990, so he's probably one of the more popular characters to come out of the Bronze Age. But he doesn't go back to the 60s or 70s like most popular Marvel characters.
Captain Boomerang goes all the way back to the Silver Age, so he has quite a bit more history than Gambit. Let me get into that now. George Harkness, aka Digger, was the illegitimate son of an American soldier stationed in Australia. Digger's mother, an Australian native named Betty Harkness, raised him in a small, poverty-stricken village named Kurumbura, where his stepfather, Ian Harkness, hated and mistreated him. Having little to occupy him, Digger began handcrafting his own boomerangs, which are Aboriginal Australian hunting weapons. He was a prodigy in their craftsmanship and use, and it wasn't long before he was skilled enough to begin using them for thievery, a chance to get everything he couldn't afford. As he got older, he further mastered his throwing skills while hiding from the police in the Australian bush. Eventually, Digger's thievery got him kicked out of his home by his stepfather. His mother gifted Digger with a one-way plane ticket to Central City in America, where, unbeknownst to Digger, lived his biological father, Willard Walter Wiggins, now a toy company tycoon. As luck would have it, when Digger arrived in Central City, Wiggins was looking for a mascot to sell his company's new plastic boomerangs. Due to Digger's proficiency with the plastic weapons, he got the gig, and was dubbed Captain Boomerang, complete with his own goofy costume. While in the public promoting the toys, Digger was ridiculed and humiliated, and before long, he was moonlighting as a thief once again. His crime spree eventually caught the attention of the Flash, who you can learn more about in our Flash vs. Quicksilver episode. Digger's trick boomerangs posed a minor challenge for the Flash, but Digger was constantly imprisoned by the hero, though he always managed to escape captivity as he preemptively hid boomerangs within every jail within 100 miles of Central City. Digger fared better against the Flash, as did the rest of his Rogues Gallery, when he decided to team up with the other Flash villains to form the Rogues. Partnered with the likes of Gorilla Grodd, Captain Cold, Weather Wizard, and the Trickster, to name a few, Digger was more successful than ever. Eventually, however, the Flash would find a way to defeat the whole team, and they were imprisoned in separate facilities far away from Central City so they wouldn't help each other escape. Years later, Digger was recruited by Amanda Waller to join the Government Covert Sanction Task Force X, aka the Suicide Squad. Digger agreed to join the team on impossible missions in exchange for time off of his sentence. Initially led by the villain Deadshot, the squad members ended up hating Digger, as not only was he a jerk and bigot, but he often failed to participate in missions, resulting in several members' deaths. And Digger even duped the villain Slipknot into blowing his own hands off after he convinced him the explosive bracelets they wore to keep them in line were fake, just to test whether or not they were. Despite being a jerk and a screw-up, Digger's own self-interest, survival instincts, and surprising talents proved useful when Deadshot's own suicidal tendencies and self-sabotaging nature got the team in bigger messes than they would not have otherwise been able to get out of. You can learn more about Deadshot in our Deadshot vs. Bullseye episode. Digger was also useful in undercover operations, as he was right at home in some of the seediest parts of the world. Over time, Digger's begrudging nature and frequent pranks became too much for the squad members to handle. When Digger told Waller there was nothing she could do to punish him since he was already a prisoner in the Suicide Squad, and he called her fat, she dropped him out of a helicopter they were in as it passed over a deserted island in the ocean. Digger was stranded on the island for over a year, after which Waller decided to pick him up as he was trying to construct a massive boomerang that he intended to use to hurl himself back to the mainland.
What?
During one mission, Deadshot finally had enough of Digger and shot him through both of his hands, causing Digger to seemingly fall to his death. Digger survived the fall, however, and was later seen with the Rogues once again, now with cybernetic hands thanks to Abracadabra, who you can learn more about in his duel against the Mandarin. Abra tricked Digger and the other Rogues into sacrificing themselves in order to summon the demon Neuron, but Digger and the others were eventually resurrected with help from the Flash. Later, during a heist gone wrong, Digger accidentally blew off his cybernetic hands when an exploding boomerang went off too soon. As an ambulance was taking him to the hospital, the vehicle was attacked by a Jokerized version of Deadshot, who injected Digger with a restorative version of the Joker's toxin, causing Digger's hands to grow back and his burns to heal, at the cost of becoming a maniacal slave to the Joker. This was during the Joker's Last Laugh storyline, when most of DC's villains were Jokerized. Eventually, the Joker venom wore off, and Digger, over time, became depressed, out of shape, and a joke amongst the criminal community. In his search for meaning, it was revealed that he had a son that he had abandoned, Owen Mercer, whom Digger attempted to reconnect with. Wanting to prove himself to his son, Digger accepted an assassination job to kill Jack Drake, the father of Tim Drake, who you can learn more about in our Drake vs. Winter Soldier episode. Jack was warned ahead of time about Captain Boomerang's arrival, however, and shot Digger as he appeared, killing him, but not before Digger simultaneously lobbed a razor-sharp boomerang into Jack's chest, also killing him. Owen, seeking to honor his father's mantle, became the new Captain Boomerang, possessing super speed in addition to his father's throwing talent. Owen joined the Rogues for a time before being recruited into the Suicide Squad like his father, and not long after, deciding to turn over a new leaf and join the Outsiders super team as a good guy after sharing a prison cell with a framed Black Lightning. Owen's life was going well until the Blackest Night storyline, when Digger came back from the dead as a Black Lantern zombie. Zombie Digger and the other undead Rogues fought against new members of the supervillain team. Owen arrived and carried his father away, believing he could rescue him. While trapped in a construction pit, Digger convinced his son Owen that the Black Lantern zombies needed to feed upon the living. So Owen lured unsuspecting small-time villains and even innocents into the pit to feed his father.
Whoa.
When the living Rogues found out, their leader, Captain Cold, kicked Owen into the pit, at which point Digger ripped out his heart and turned him into a Black Lantern zombie. When the Black Lanterns were defeated, several heroes and villains were resurrected by the white light of life. Digger was one of the few, though his time as a Black Lantern gave him the ability to conjure explosive boomerangs made of Black Lantern energy at will. The ability was taken from Digger, however, after he re-killed a resurrected dead man who had also been brought back to life by the white light. In post-Flashpoint and Rebirth continuity, Digger is once again a member of the Suicide Squad. Now, powers-wise, though Captain Boomerang is not a metahuman, he has uncanny aim and throwing speed, particularly with boomerangs, a collection of which he's fashioned himself. His varied arsenal includes razor rings, or razor-sharp boomerangs capable of going right through human flesh and bone, explosive boomerangs, smoke trail boomerangs, multi-rings, which is a boomerang that splits into smaller boomerangs once it's thrown, electrified boomerangs, rope snare boomerangs, and acid boomerangs that leave a trail of corrosive gas, just to name a few.
Oh, he's like Hawkeye, except instead of arrows, it's boomerangs.
Yeah, like Hawkeye, but better. In the Silver Age, he had some real doozies as well, including time travel boomerangs and flying boomerangs that could carry him through the air.
Wouldn't he get dizzy and throw up?
No, they were more like wings. It didn't spin. It just kind of sailed through the air.
Okay.
He keeps a majority of his boomerangs in his jacket that he wears, though he also has a considerable amount of collapsible boomerangs hidden throughout his clothing. Though his fitness level has fluctuated over the years, most of the time, Digger is at peak physical condition. That's Captain Boomerang, aka Boomer.
That's interesting. You know, Marvel has their own version of a boomerang villain. His name is just Boomerang. He's kind of a C-list villain who has gone against like Hawkeye and Spider-Man and Daredevil, and he has trick boomerangs too. He was like a former Major League pitcher, but he's kind of like a more gimmicky, less cool version of Bullseye to me.
Why didn't we pit Captain Boomerang against your Boomerang?
It's 2 1-for-1. They're essentially identical, and Marvel's Boomerang is just fucking lame, and he's not popular enough. Gambit's way cooler, and I think he still has enough in common with Captain Boomerang.
Yeah, I agree. But now that we've gotten Gambit's and Captain Boomerang's histories and abilities out of the way, now let's speculate on how one of the 1,000 simulated matches will go. The winner is determined by simulations, not this speculation, but it's fun to imagine how this fight could play out.
And we don't set any rules for our speculative match, other than the characters don't know anything about each other going in, except that the other character is a threat that needs to be put down. And we say they start off about 50 meters apart in an environment that has no bearing on the match itself, because we don't take stats for the environment.
Plus, certain characters have advantages in some environments over others, and we want these characters to win on their own merit. So let's get into it. The characters meet on the battlefield. Who goes first? I think, Captain Boomerang is a pretty brash guy, and I think, he'll just want to get this over with pretty quick. So I think he'll go first.
Okay.
And he'll start just by throwing a quick volley of razor rings right at Gambit.
Well, Gambit sees these boomerangs flying at him, and so he pulls out his playing cards, and he charges a few cards, and he hurls them at the boomerangs and just knocks them out of the air.
A few cards? Okay, these are more than a few boomerangs. He doesn't get, all of them, and some of them actually manage to make, the return trip, so they slice Gambit from behind.
Slice him where? Well, we'll say Gambit's jacket gets sliced, and at that point, he's able to react using his reflexes to dodge the other returning boomerangs.
Okay, but while Gambit is dodging those, Boomer is just going to throw another succession of boomerangs, this time explosive ones.
Okay, well, Gambit sees these, and he charges his bow staff, and he uses it to vault himself into the air, using the staff's energy to blast himself high in the air above the explosive boomerangs and the explosions. And while he's in the air, he hurls his own volley of explosive playing cards right at Captain Boomerang.
Okay, but Boomer sees these cards coming at him, so he quickly unloads this multi-rang, and that bursts into a bunch of smaller boomerangs that hit all of the cards before they can even reach him.
All of the cards?
Yes, there was a lot of little boomerangs.
All right, well, Gambit falls through these kinetic explosions like a badass and just lands right onto Captain Boomerang, slamming his staff right into Boomer's dumbass face. And then he follows up with a quick roundhouse kick to Boomer's chest, knocking him on his ass.
Okay, so Boomer's face is smashed in. He's hurt pretty bad. He's probably unloading a whole tirade of swear words, even the Australian ones that I don't know. But as he's on the ground in pain, he just hurls a smokescreen boomerang, which sails around Gambit, just enveloping him in this thick shroud so he can't see. And that'll buy Boomer a little bit of time.
Good move. So Gambit is enshrouded in all this smoke, and he probably starts coughing, so he runs out of the smoke so he could breathe.
Yeah, and he emerges only to see Boomer back on his feet, just lobbing a snare boomerang, which is two boomerangs with a rope between them, at Gambit, and they just wrap around him, tying him up from neck to ankles, really fast.
Oh, it's like a bola, kind of?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, in addition to being a master thief, Gambit is also a master escape artist. And what he does is he just grabs a small section of the rope that he's tied with, and he charges it with just enough kinetic energy to make the line that he's tied up in snap. And so he frees himself from this snare.
That's dumb. Okay, but as he's getting out of the snare, Boomer just hurls a series of boomerangs right at Gambit's face.
But Gambit is able to get out of the snare quickly enough to get out of it, pull out his bow staff, and knock these boomerangs that were thrown at him right to the ground.
What?
And then he picks one of these boomerangs up, and he charges the boomerang with kinetic energy, and he hurls it right at Captain Boomerang, blowing him up.
Gambit throws a boomerang.
Yeah.
Does Gambit even know how to throw a boomerang?
Excuse me? It's fucking Gambit. He knows how to throw anything. He threw Captain America's shield once, like an expert.
And it came back to him?
So yeah, he knows how to throw a fucking boomerang.
All right. Okay, then I guess he should know better then. Boomer just leaps out of the way, just dodging the boomerang, which sails back towards Gambit and explodes right in his stupid face.
Oh, shit.
It's a boomerang. It'll come back. That'll teach him to try and use Boomer's own weapons against him.
Well, I mean, Gambit will see it returning back, and he knows what a boomerang is anyway, so once he sees that Boomer dodged it, he's going to be able to dodge it too.
Boomer's probably laughing his ass off at Gambit. He's just it's a boomerang, mate. It comes back.
Well, Gambit presses his hand to the ground while Captain Boomerang's laughing his ass off, and Gambit sends a charge through the ground toward Boomer and explodes him into the air.
Gambit can charge the ground?
Yeah.
What?
And while Boomer was knocked into the air, Gambit follows up in a combo, hurling some charge cards at him, blasting him out of the air back down to the ground. And Captain Boomerang is just like, he's out. He's like freaking hurt.
Yeah, probably.
So Gambit follows up again by hurling his bow staff at him.
He hurls his bow staff as... That's too long of a combo, okay? Boomer's just going to catch the bow staff out of the air. You know, he's an expert at catching things. His boomerangs return to him all the time, and he has armored gloves to catch them, okay? So Boomer catches the staff out of the air, gets to his feet, and just flings the staff, spinning back at Gambit hard and fast.
You're not going to hit Gambit with that. Gambit flips out of the way and charges Captain Boomerang to show him some more of his savant martial arts. So prepare for the mother of all beatdowns, because it's coming.
Okay, I mean, but Boomer sees Gambit charging him, so he pulls out some razor rings to use, like, close quarters, hand-to-hand weapons for self-defense.
Oh.
But just as Gambit reaches him, his own bow staff sails back and hits him in the back of the head, giving Boomer the opportunity to stab Gambit right in the guts.
How did the bow staff make a return trip?
Captain Boomerang can turn, like, anything into a boomerang.
What?
Yeah.
Even things that aren't boomerang shaped?
Yeah. His abilities are, like, superhuman level here.
That's stupid.
It's awesome, because now Gambit is just bleeding out.
Gambit got hit in the back of the head and stabbed?
Yep, and he's dying.
Okay, but before Gambit can bleed out, he snatches onto Captain Boomerang's long scarf that he wears, and he charges Captain Boomerang's scarf.
What?
Causing it to explode, and he just blows Captain Boomerang's head right off.
No! Okay, but little did you know that one of the dozens of boomerangs that Boomer tossed earlier in the match was a time travel boomerang. So before Gambit can fully charge Boomer's scarf, the boomerang just comes back to this timeline and straight up decapitates Gambit from behind.
What is a time travel boomerang?
It's a boomerang that leaves the timeline and then comes back at another point.
Oh my god. I didn't know that's what it was. I thought it was just... You were probably saving that this whole time, huh?
Oh yeah, totally, yeah. No, with Captain Boomerang, you've always got to be watching your back.
That's crazy. Well, I'm going to say that actually Captain Boomerang's head exploded before Gambit got hit with the time travel boomerang, and therefore Gambit still wins. But that seems like a good place to end this match, so let's go ahead and find out what really happened by running the stats on these characters in the simulations and finding out who would actually win.
Let's do it.
All right, that was as fun as I wanted it to be. Those guys are both pretty cool.
Yeah.
Captain Boomerang was just so much more gimmicky than I even thought he would be. They really need to do him more justice within the Suicide Squad film, and hopefully they will in the upcoming movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could almost make him do anything. Again, sort of like Hawkeye. All he needs is like a boomerang attachment.
While we ran the stats on these characters, I gotta say that they're fairly comparable except in their physicals. Gambit is a little bit faster, a little bit more agile than Captain Boomerang, given that Gambit can charge his body with kinetic energy.
Yeah, and I thought that Captain Boomerang's versatility would definitely give him a leg up stats-wise, but it really didn't help him. I mean, when it came to damage level, they were comparable. When it came to range, they were comparable. Even with intelligence and perception and everything else, they were basically evenly matched.
Except for in fighting skill, because Gambit also had him beat there.
That's true.
So that being said, who do you think won this match?
I gotta say, this is probably another obvious one that's only obvious in hindsight, sort of like our last match between Lady Shiva and Shang-Chi. When it comes to the stats, there's no question as to who the victor is, and unfortunately, it looks like that's going to be Marvel again.
And I'm sure the majority of our listeners would agree, even though we neglected to put up a poll this week. Sorry, guys, but I'm sure it would have been 99% Gambit.
No, it's not going to be that high. I'm going to put up a poll after this recording just to prove you wrong.
All right. We'll see. But the winner of the duel between Captain Boomerang and Gambit is Gambit.
Damn it.
He won 672 out of the 1,000 matches. So 67.2% compared to Captain Boomerang's 32.8%. This was an ass whooping.
Kinda. I mean, Gambit wins just about 2/3 of the time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to hold on to that 1/3 and just cherish it.
Yeah, I guess 1/3 isn't too bad when you think about it. In the end, Gambit just ended up being a little bit too cool for Captain Boomerang.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. As much as I like the character of Boomer, and as much as he's grown on me, I guess, over the years, as, just like this piece of shit character, Gambit, there's no denying that he's definitely the fan favorite and definitely the superior character.
So you concede that Marvel is superior?
Hell no. When it comes to this match, Gambit, definitely beat Captain Boomerang, but just wait until our next match, which actually is our next episode. We're going to do another duel match, this time between Obsidian and Photon, aka Spectrum, Monica Rambeau from WandaVision.
Yeah, and that episode will lead into our review of WandaVision in the subsequent week.
Do you know anything about Obsidian?
I think he was a Justice Society member, right?
Yeah, he's Alan Scott's son.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be an interesting one because it's kind of like light against dark.
Exactly. But that does it for this duel. Let us know what you thought about the results by writing to us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com or by visiting us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You can find links to all of our accounts by visiting our website, dynamicduel.com.
And guys, on a more serious, somber note now, we would like to dedicate this episode to our half-brother who unfortunately passed away a couple of weeks ago. Only 22 years old. We've gone through a few tragic incidents within the course of making this podcast, and we always try to keep our personal life kind of out of it.
Yeah, his name was Michael Maes. We haven't really ever done this before. We've never dedicated an episode to someone, but we couldn't not comment on his passing. It was just way too soon, and we don't really know any other way to honor him.
If you guys have loved ones out there that you haven't spoken to in a while, be sure to reach out to them because you just never know.
And we always talked about getting together, once this whole COVID stuff was over. Won't be able to do that. So definitely cherish your relationships that you have, repair the ones that are broken, and stay safe out there. I'm sure a lot of us have lost a lot of loved ones over the past year. Stay strong. Keep moving forward. The love that you had for the people who may have passed was real, and you'll always have that. And we'll miss you, Michael. Rest in peace.